Hello, everyone. My name is Alex, and I live in St. Paul, Minnesota. Um, I feel so nervous because I'm kind of like I'm kind of like a very delicate. I'm like everything is sort of delicately balanced right now in me emotionally, in order for me not to be falling apart because I just had this really hard breakup. And so everything is sort of making me cry. So um, that's probably going to happen during this. But I also realized that I haven't had a day count. I haven't actually kept track of how many days I've been off Kratom. After like 30, I kind of just stopped. But I wanna figure it out. But I don't know. I think it might be like between 40 and 50 at this point. And it's funny because I don't really think about it anymore. I think I still think about wanting to escape how I'm feeling. And that's just like a feeling that I've had for my whole life. And I've never, I mean, except for when I was a tiny child, did I ever know what it was like not to feel that way. But I guess I'll just start by saying that I was born in Los Angeles, and then my family moved to Minnesota when I was 4. And they're very much like both my parents are from the Midwest, like their families are from the Midwest. My dad's dad is from Denmark, so I have Danish family members as well. But we're very much like the absolute model of a middle class family back then, and even now. Like when I look at my dad and his wife, who's not my mom, my stepmom, um, just like my dad has always been very dedicated to public service, and he loves cops, he loves firefighters, he's a stocks and bonds trader, he's now in insurance, and he's a workaholic, classic workaholic, like never at home. Really does not understand how to help to like witness someone else having emotions, or like being able to process his own. It is really challenging. He's gotten better, but and my mom is just like a big personality. Anytime she walks into the room, she's there. Just always has opinions, always wearing fun stuff, always yelling, oh my God, blah, 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 talking to people. And they were just kind of like this power couple, like middle class fantasy. And I have a sister who is 2.5 years younger. And I just like was always weird. I always felt like I was strange. And I know that that's like a common phenomenon for people who have addiction issues. And I think, I don't think I actually maybe am weird. Maybe it's just that I am more aware. I feel like really aware of things. Like I just like I've always been really sensitive and taking in other people's emotions, and I don't think logically. I don't ever make decisions based on like looking at a positive and negative list. Like it's always just emotional. And um and that's like taken me in so many crazy places. But I'll go back to my childhood, which is um from the time I was about 6. My mom and dad sort of started hating each other, more or less. They weren't suited for each other at all. And I don't ever remember them showing affection, like ever. And so I never really thought about partnership or marriage as something that was affectionate or had anything to do with um, like, I don't know, like feeling. It just like was always something that seemed very transactional. And my mom then started when I was a teenager, she started going into alcoholism and um pretty I mean really bad. uh and her in her family she had multiple relatives die of alcoholism, and it was always kind of there. And my grandpa was always drinking around us. He never got treatment, but he was functional. And yeah, and she would just kind of slip away into these places where um everything just, she really, the most important thing for her, like when we were growing up, I think, and leading into her alcoholism, was just making sure that everything appeared good. And I think that's where, for me, some of my issues with being not in touch with my own emotions, or kind of understanding how to integrate how I feel with my life. Uh, yeah, and I never got that kind of support from my dad either. My sister was the only kind of place of refuge, but in some ways, she didn't meet all of my needs either. So I guess what I'm saying is, when I was a teenager, I just felt like a total, like, I truly thought that I had been born from different parents and someone had dropped me off, like, at this house, and I just kept waiting for people to come get me. I'm like, how can I mean, I'm just looking at the suburban lifestyle and just like the extreme waste, like all of the, just like it's so unsustainable, and like lack of culture, just like nothing going on. We'd When I got old enough to drive, I'd drive into the city, and it would just be like, oh my god, people that look different from me living together and doing things together and like making art. That's just like how exciting and how normal that feels. And I just was always fascinated with like chasing culture and seeing like what people were doing. I'm just fascinated by how people do things. Anyway, this is like a really hard thing to do, tell this story, because there's so many different wings I can go into. um but I think I'm maybe giving a bit of a picture, which is, inside, like I felt like an alien, and also very hopeful. and and then I went to college, and um, trigger warning, I'm gonna be talking about sexual assault. Um, and I went to college, and my mom started this cycle, which happened for 10 years, where she was either too drunk to function, she was in prison, or detox, or rehab. Those are like the 4 or 5 possible places she could be at any one time. So she lost everything, like all of our family, like our house and just everything. And my dad divorced her when I was 18. And yeah, and then when I was between 18 and 20, I was raped and sexually assaulted multiple times over the course of those years. And I think for me, I never, I'm still trying to get over that. Um, I think it fundamentally broke something in um, how I relate to men in particularly. I just remember um, feeling like after the first time it happened, just feeling like someone had ripped a layer of reality off of my face, and now this is the new one. And suddenly men just seemed like vile creatures, and but I still held on to this like very deep and kind of like sick need to be rescued by someone, because I'm a freaking artist. I don't make any money. I still don't make any money. And so yeah, it's like there was just this push and pull in my 20s where I would push everyone away and be just this independent kind of like, I was biking everywhere. I was squatting in my art studio for many years. I worked odd jobs. I worked as a cocktail waitress, barista. I worked in food. I love food. That's like what I do now is I am in catering and I do my own food business things. Um, but I drank. That was like how I coped with everything. And I found this place in a little I found this like little place I could occupy in a group of people, like old time music people, kind of like crust punk, um, train kid adjacent, like really cool. Yeah. And I dated one of them for many years, and I just like got lost into this world of like drinking and going to shows. And that's just like what I did. And then um I went to the Landmark Forum, which if you know about it, you know, and if you don't know, you don't know. But it's basically a program um, that is kind of like a weekend retreat sort of thing, where you kind of like they give you this teachings about like how the world works and like how your life is, and then you kind of come out of the weekend being like, whoa, I can take control of my own life and everything, and like suddenly everything makes sense. Anyway, there's a whole other thing, but I did one of these weekends, and it's like it snapped me out of this cycle that I had been for so long, and I realized that I was getting too deep into alcoholism, and so I just stopped it immediately. I just stopped it, and that stayed, and I still don't enjoy. I mean, the thing is I love fermentation, and I make all sorts of like wines and various fermented beverages because I enjoy it, but I'm not into alcohol anymore, and I'm glad. That was a relief. And um that sort of feeling of ownership over my behavior and my healing, and being able to walk away from drinking and walk away from that little subculture that I was a part of, um, was so powerful. And I mean, I was just so inspired by this newfound um, control that I could have, or rather, just like I don't have to be stagnant. Like I can keep growing. And so I decided to go study in the UK, study illustration. And so I just like took off and just dove deep into this amazing program in Cornwall in the UK. And and it was phenomenal. And I felt so alive, and I wasn't drinking, and um it's so hard to like know how to talk about things from this point on, because there were just so many other things happening. But I think like kratom the root of the kratom addiction was I fell in love with a woman uh, in the UK, and we had just this epic kind of long distance, and we'd visit each other she's just this like amazing illustrator, just like a rock star. I just love her so much. But what happened in the relationship is I basically denied who I was in order to fit into what she wanted. And I didn't, and that the action of doing that for a couple of years really broke me in a way, or I should say it hurt me. And like I did that. And our relationship ended in me, um, I mean, sort of having a mental breakdown. And I was living with her in upstate New York, and it was just amazing. This like totally bucolic existence, and on this beautiful lake, and I just like, and she was working. She's a professor. She made all the money, and I was basically like, I have this freedom to like do whatever I want, and it, I just couldn't. I just couldn't do it. I was so I the relationship was such a lie, and I just wanted it to work. I was like, this is a good idea to do this relationship, but inside it wasn't what I really wanted. And um that dissonance was so painful, especially because of how obsessed I was with her, um that I kind of just like imploded. And that's the first time that I went on medication for depression and anxiety. And that sort of started a whole new cycle of like looking at the sexual trauma and realizing that that was ruling a lot of my relationships. Um, and and I always, even though I wasn't drinking, I always was like looking for little ways to kind of alter my consciousness. And it started around that time that I started getting medicated, because I was like, there's so many herbs out there. And like I started getting into different kinds of marijuana and like um kava, and I went to Hawaii and I like got introduced to kava, and like in the real way that they make it, like with the root. And I was just, and like the massaging in the water, and I was like, this is amazing, and just, I kind of like, I am really interested in food culture. And so I think there was a blending somewhere in there where a part of me was looking for a more escape from those feelings that I think is escape from the guilt, like how how poorly I've treated myself over my life, like how little I've listened to what I wanted to do, and instead just sort of done what other people wanted me to do, or like done what like this idea of myself wanted me to do. And meanwhile, I mean, I didn't even like, it's so hard because it's like I can't even talk about my whole family stuff. But there was even more, like there's this, my mom is this, she's like this other entity in our lives where everyone in my family has basically disowned her. And I'm the only one who's connected to her because, well, because why? I don't know. I mean, because I want to make an effort to try to have some sort of relationship with her. But my dad, my sister, like the rest of my family are just like, no, she's too much. She's now 11 years sober from alcohol, and she's doing great. She's done a lot of damage to her brain, and she's kind of like a drive drunk kind of situation all the time, where she's a little bit like, okay, and she says stuff that doesn't make sense, and she's obnoxious. And my dad and my stepmom are just like, they're just like, she's kind of like gone into this place where she's just like smoking cigarettes and I don't care, she's been to jail, and she's just like, people want to judge me, like that's their problem, but blah blah blah. And she just really doesn't fit in with like the suburban ideal of the western suburbs of the Twin Cities. And so I think that's also part of it, is she's embarrassing to my family. Um, so that's just such a hard thing, to be the only connection, and that there's always this back and forth, where my mom's curious about stuff, about how my sister's doing and how the baby is. My sister's had a baby, and just, all that back and forth, it's exhausting to me. And I find myself getting more involved than I really want to be. Anyway, Kratom,
10
when I
minutes.
started, what?
10 minutes. Sorry, I was trying to get your attention.
125. Okay.
You have 10 minutes. Go ahead.
Great. I haven't even like started talking about Kratom yet, but it's just so hard because it's like, no, that's okay. Here we go. When COVID hit, I was newly broken up from my partner, the UK one, and I lived alone in a beautiful apartment in rural New York. And I lost my job as a baker, and I spent 2020 making art and doing everything I ever wanted. 2020 was like an absolute heavenly year. I was totally sober. I loved everything. There's always struggles, but it was at the end of that year that I got introduced to Kratom. And it was by my partner, my now ex-partner. I can't even say it yet. Anyway, Evan, the one who I've been seeing for 4 years. He introduced it to me, and at first it made me really sick. But that didn't deter me at all. I was just like, I'm bound. I think this is going to be good. I was looking for something to. I was just looking for something to have, that I could have control over. You know, I just wanted to have something that I didn't have to be like right and good and all this stuff. I wanted to have like an escape, like a special place, an escape. And at first I started taking it. I was taking it like once a week, and it was like this amazing way to help me draw. And I would just do all these like beautiful like little patterns and like illustrations and just like detail stuff. Over time I didn't do any of that because my hands were so shaky, by the end, that I couldn't do illustration. I also lost all interest in it. But and then so at the same time I started dating my partner, Evan, and we have been friends for so long. We've been friends since I was 18. He was the first person I had sex with. He was my first boyfriend, and then we broke up after a couple months, but then we remained best friends, and we got back together in 2021. And we kept trying to make this relationship work. And in the middle of all that, I just kept taking more Kratom because I suddenly had this access to a place in my head where nothing upset me. And anything that we decided, or that he said, or decisions we were making, whatever, it would just be like, okay, like no resistance. And that feeling of constantly like not having to like talk about our emotions and go through all the like, well, this is what I want, and this is what you want. It was just like it created this sort of like smooth place. The problem was is um obviously I couldn't, well, not obviously, but I wasn't in touch with my actual feelings, with what I wanted. And most women, people born as female in this society, we have this training that's silent. It's not an official training, but it's like a lady training where, you're taught to be quiet and, keep your voice down and make sure that you're doing things that please other people and be a good wife and, defer to male, kind of like authorities and just try to be like smooth, like just just try to be low maintenance, okay, ladies? Like, ladies, just don't make a fuss, okay? Don't be a bitch. Don't be a crazy bitch. That's like the lady training. And I found this place with Kratom where it was like, I just was like, I'm just being like the perfect girlfriend because I'm just being like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's move in together. I love you. I don't care, blah, blah, blah. And this just progressed over the last few years to the point where suddenly I had been making decisions that I didn't want to have. Like I haven't this apartment even I like got by accident because we were supposed to move in together and then at the last minute we had a fucking fight and we neither one of us wanted this apartment, but then we were stuck with it because I had not been honest about what I really wanted. And he got screwed in the end because anyway, I it's just like all of these little things like this that have been adding up. And by the end of this by last the end of this last year and the beginning of this year, I was so lost in the dark that I truly did not want to live. I mean, I saw no point. Honestly, there are some days where I still feel that way. I definitely feel like the kratom like haze is still um it's still like got me for sure. But um I just thought I was never going to get better. And I tried to quit so many times and Evan never he didn't think it's a problem. Like he didn't understand that it was a problem and he's still taking it. And I think it affects him differently. And he was always supportive, but um I don't know. I guess like I guess like what happened with Kratom is I thought that I had everything figured out. I thought that since I stayed away from alcohol and I had done a lot of therapy around sexual trauma and, that I had done a lot of work, that I could let go, that I could let something, that I could relax my, not my rules, but just like what I know works for me. And it was such a huge mistake. And it cost me my best friend and and how many years, I mean, of my life just like not doing what I wanted to be doing and the money and the impact it's had on my friends and family and I'm sharing all that with them now and it's just crazy, like, to hear that just people have been worried about me and how negative I had seemed, like, just kind of dead to other people. And I don't know. I think right now I am so I mean, I could not have done any of this stuff without this group recovering. And for me, I think I ended up going the medicated assisted method, and I'm taking Suboxone, and it has been an absolute lifesaver for me. I mean, it has been a lifesaver. I don't know how I would do it without it. It totally keeps me, it just keeps me stable. And it's allowing me to rebuild little things every day. And between all of you and my therapist and the Suboxone, it's just like I feel like I have a new lease on life. I think the thing about the timing for this talk is I think it shows through the way I've told this story, but I'm kind of just asking myself right now, like, who am I without Evan, with my dearest friend and my partner? And I think I don't know yet. This only happened like a week ago, so I would be really interested to hear how I tell this story in like a couple months from now, because I have a feeling it will be much more coherent and empowering. Because I honestly don't feel very empowered right now. So I know that I'm gotten over time, but I guess I just right before this meeting started, I was like, oh, I should have something like a good luck charm or something with me while I do this meeting. And I just so happened to be waiting to cut open this papaya for the last week and a half. And I just wanted to show you how unbelievably beautiful it is. That's like, I've had that next to me this whole time, and I just keep looking at it thinking, like, oh my God, if nature can do that, like, I mean, I don't have anything more to say. It's perfect. So thank you for listening. I know that was mostly non-kratom related talking, but that's okay. I appreciate y'all for witnessing, and um, thank you.
Alex, that was perfect.